Welcome, Seeker. Thank you for joining me. Today we will explore a question as old as human life itself. What is real happiness? Buddhism does not offer quick tricks or slogans. It offers a systematic path, a pragmatic map, grounded in observation, practice, and ethical living. Over 2,500 years, the Buddha and later teachers recorded precise instructions in the Dhammapada, the Majjhima Nikāya, and many trusted commentaries. In modern times, scholars and practitioners such as Walpola Rahula, Bhikkhu Bodhi, Thich Nhat Hanh, and the Dalai Lama have translated and explained these teachings in ways we can apply today. In this video, I will gently guide you through 6 clear sections: definition, root causes of suffering, the 4 noble truths, the nature of lasting happiness, practical practices, and integrating wisdom into daily life. This is intended for reflection and practice. Take a breath, soften your attention, and let us begin. How the Buddha defined happiness. The Buddha did not define happiness as a fleeting pleasure or emotional high. In the canonical texts, and summarized in works like What the Buddha Taught, W. Rahula, and in the Buddha's words, Bhikkhu Bodhi, true happiness, Sukha, is steadier, freer, and rooted in awakened qualities. The Buddha contrasted to opposing tendencies: transient sensual pleasure, K with macron, MA with macron, which is weather dependent, and the deeper peace that arises from ethical conduct, mental clarity, and insight, Sla, Samdhi, Pan. A few practical markers of real happiness in the Buddhist frame. Times it's not volatile. It endures beyond the immediate stimulus. Times it reduces craving and aversion rather than magnifying them. Times it comes with a clear mind that sees things as they are. Times it supports compassion and wise action. Modern interpreters insist the language is practical, not mystical. Thich Nhat Hanh, in the heart of the Buddha's teaching, reminds us that a happiness that harms nobody and steadies the mind qualifies as true. The Buddha's method is designed to create that stable well-being through training of attention and transformation of habit. Why most happiness fails. The roots of suffering. To know what real happiness is, the Buddha first taught us to diagnose its opposite. The 4 noble truths begin with the simple observation: life includes suffering, dukkha. Texts such as the Dhammapada and Majjhima Nikāya enumerate how craving, teh, ignorance, avidya, and attachment bind us to repeated dissatisfaction. Common contemporary mistakes: times chasing external outcomes, status, pleasure, possessions for identity and security. Times confusing distraction for fulfillment, using consumption to numb unease. Times seeking happiness while avoiding inner work, expecting outer change to fix inner patterns. These are not moral condemnations. They're accurate statements of cause and effect. Walpola Rahula and Bhikkhu Bodhi both emphasize that recognizing the cause of suffering, craving, and misperception is liberating because it points to where change is possible. Real happiness is not denial of joy. It's freedom from being driven by craving and fear. The 4 noble truths as a practical map. The Buddha's blueprint for liberation is elegantly pragmatic. There is suffering, dukkha. There is a cause, craving. There is an end to suffering, nibbana. There is a path, the Noble Eightfold Path. This path is not abstract. It is a training in wise view, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Works like the heart of the Buddha's teaching unpack each element with everyday applications. Ethical living creates a stable foundation. Right attention reduces reactivity. Right effort refines habit. Concentration yields clarity. Wisdom sees conditioned experience as impermanent and therefore not ultimately satisfying. A useful image. The path is like learning to garden. You remove weeds, unskillful patterns, you prepare soil, ethical life, you water and tend plants, mindfulness and effort, and gradually a healthy crop grows, stable happiness. This is a sustained, iterative process, practical and testable in daily life. The nature of lasting, what does lasting mean here? It does not mean permanence in an absolutist sense, but a quality of non-reactivity and freedom from conditioned compulsion. The Buddha's highest description of happiness, nibbana, is absence of craving and the peaceful clarity that remains when the mind is unhooked from compulsive seeking. Bhikkhu Bodhi's translations highlight the experiential nature of this state. It is known directly, not merely theorized. At lower levels, lasting happiness emerges as times equanimity in the face of change, times joy that is not dependent on narrow circumstances, opaque, mudit, times a mind that recognizes transience and therefore can appreciate without clinging. The Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh both emphasize that ethical conduct and compassion are inseparable from genuine happiness. When your happiness does not come at another's expense, it is stable and wholesome. In practice, insight into impermanence transforms how you relate to pleasure and loss. You enjoy fully, yet let go gracefully. Happiness, insight, and liberation. Practical practices that cultivate real happiness. The Buddha's teaching is disciplined practice. Here are core practices with references to canonical sources and contemporary guides. Mindfulness, satipahana, daily mindfulness of body, feeling, mind, and phenomena. Mindfulness, in plain English, bhante gunartana, is a practical how-to for beginners. Meditation, shamanta and vipassana, calming the mind, concentration, then investigating experience, insight. Early suttas and Bhikkhu Bodhi's anthologies provide guided instructions. Modern retreats adapt them for today. Ethical conduct, sla, speech, action, livelihood that reduce harm and create clarity. The precepts are simple and stabilizing. Reflective inquiry, contemplation of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. These transform perspective and weaken compulsive habits. Metta, loving kindness, practice, develops radiant goodwill and dissolves isolation. Thich Nhat Hanh and many modern teachers stress its practical benefit for mental health. Right effort and habit formation, small, repeated practices create neural and behavioral change. Hill and modern behavioral science complement this by showing the power of repeated intentional action. Begin simply, short daily sitting practice, mindful pauses before reactions, one act of generosity each day. Track results. The path asks for steady, compassionate training, not perfection. Integrating wisdom into daily life. The ultimate test of any spiritual teaching is its fruit in ordinary life. Real happiness shows up in how you meet stress, relationships, work, and loss. Integration means applying mindfulness to difficult conversations, choosing livelihood that aligns with values when possible, bringing curiosity to emotions rather than judgment, and creating community that supports practice. Practical tips for integration. Time start with microhabits. 5 minutes of morning meditation, 1 mindful meal, 1 compassionate action. Times use reminders, notes, alarms, or a short daily reflection to check intention. Times join a sangha or study group, community sustains practice. This echoes the mastermind idea in other traditions. Times read both classical and contemporary guides, Dhammapada for concise verses, what the Buddha taught for clear doctrine, the heart of the Buddha's teaching for accessible explanation, and modern practical manuals like mindfulness in plain English. Remember, transformation is gradual. Celebrate small shifts, fewer reactive outbursts, a calmer sleep, more authentic connection. These are signs that deeper happiness is being cultivated. gentle closing and invitation. Seeker, real happiness is less a possession and more a way of living, a clarity of heart and mind that sees things as they are and responds with wisdom. The Buddha's teaching is an invitation. Examine, test, practice. If you wish, begin with a simple commitment, 5 minutes of mindful breathing each morning for 7 days, and notice the effect. If this teaching resonated, please like and share this video with someone seeking clearer peace. Subscribe for more guided explorations of ancient wisdom applied today. If you would like, I can produce a downloadable 1-week practice plan based on the sections we covered, or record a guided 5-minute mindfulness meditation to accompany this video. Let me know which you prefer. Suggested further reading: brief on-screen Dhammapada, verses, Majjhima Nikāya, selected suttas, what the Buddha taught, Walpola Rahula. In the Buddha's words, Bhikkhu Bodhi, the heart of the Buddha's teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh. Mindfulness in plain English, Bhante Gunartana. The art of happiness, Dalai Lama. May your practice bring you steady peace, wise perspective, and true joy. Thank you for listening.